Hi, I'm Rebecca Melanson, Extension Plant Pathologist for Vegetables, Fruits, and Pecans at Mississippi State University.
And I'm Bill Wintermantel, Research Plant Pathologist and Virologist at the USDA-ARS SAM-FAR Crop Improvement and Protection Research Center in Salinas, California. And we're co-chairs of the Emerging Viruses in Cucurbits Working Group. Today, we'd like to tell you about emerging viruses in cucurbits and introduce you to the Emerging Viruses in Cucurbits Working Group, which we may shorten and call the EVCWG. Cucurbit-infecting viruses are being introduced into or emerging in the United States at an alarming rate. Viruses affect the yield and quality of fruit and reduce marketability and grower profits. These viruses may spread through various means. Most are spread by insect vectors, but some are seed-borne and/or can be spread mechanically. For example, mechanically transmitted viruses may be spread through plant sap, on pruning tools, or on hands. Additionally, several viruses that impact cucurbit production exist internationally and are not yet present in the United States. Many of these viruses have the ability to impact cucurbit production should they be introduced into the U.S. Furthermore, there is insufficient industry-wide communication and knowledge of many of these cucurbit-infecting viruses. Some of the existing virus concerns already present in various production regions of the United States include the whitefly transmitted viruses, cucurbit yellow stunting disorder virus, cucurbit chlorotic yellows virus, squash vein yellowing virus, and cucurbit leaf crumple virus. Several mosaic viruses are also widely distributed in the United States. Some viruses that threaten cucurbit production internationally and are not currently present in the U.S. include the whitefly transmitted viruses tomato leaf curl New Delhi virus, squash leaf curl China virus, and cucumber vein yellowing virus. And these are just a few examples. Cucumber green mottle mosaic virus occurs in many cucurbit producing areas of the world. It was first identified in North America in 2013 in Canada and California. It is, however, officially under control in the United States. CGMMV is extremely stable and infects all cucurbit crops. It causes leaf mottle and mosaic symptoms, as seen in the image, as well as fruit distortion, pulp deterioration, and sugar reduction. This virus spreads through contaminated seed and on tools and equipment. Contaminated fields are no longer viable for successful cucurbit production, and contaminated greenhouses require extensive sanitation. CGMMV is a quarantine pathogen in the United States, regulated by the United States Department of Agriculture. There are several viruses in the United States that cause yellowing symptoms in cucurbits. Many of these are transmitted by the sweet potato whitefly, Bemisia tabaci, which can reach extremely high populations and cause whitefly clouds or storms in some cucurbit-producing regions. Another yellowing virus, beet pseudoyellows virus, BPYV, is transmitted by a different whitefly, the greenhouse whitefly. To make things even more complicated, similar symptoms are also produced by infection with cucurbit aphid-borne yellows virus, which is transmitted by several species of aphids. Whitefly transmitted viruses have been introduced or emerged into the United States at an alarming rate. Since 1998, an average of one new whitefly transmitted virus has emerged in the U.S. every 4 to 5 years. Once a virus is introduced into one cucurbit producing region of the U.S., within a few years it typically spreads to other cucurbit producing regions. This began with squash leaf curl virus, SLCUV, in California and Arizona in 1977 and 1978, respectively, and lettuce infectious yellows virus, LIYV, in California and Arizona in the 1980s. However, these two viruses largely disappeared with the emergence of a new sweet potato whitefly species variant in 1990 that was a poor vector of these viruses. This trend continued with the introduction or emergence of cucurbit leaf crumple virus, CUL-CRV, in California, Arizona, and Texas in 1998. Cucurbit yellow stunting disorder virus, CYSDV, in Texas in 1999. squash vein yellowing virus, SQVYV, in Florida in 2003, and cucurbit chlorotic yellows virus, CCYV, in California in 2014. All of these viruses are transmitted by sweet potato whitefly variants or biotypes that are widely prevalent in cucurbit-producing areas of the U.S. Although a virus may be present in many production areas, its impact often varies among production regions. The spread of these viruses can be better illustrated through the following animation. Red stars indicate the first report of the virus in the United States. Symptoms of many viruses and cucurbits are similar and can be difficult, if not impossible, to differentiate visually. For example, symptoms of cucurbit yellow stunting disorder virus or CYSDV infection are identical or very similar to those produced by several other viruses, including the viruses listed here. Many of these are already present in the United States and not only occur in the same production regions as CYSDV, but can also occur in mixed infections with one another. Other viruses that may cause similar symptoms on cucurbit crops to those caused by CYSDV infection, including melon chlorotic leaf curl virus and tomato leaf curl nudelli virus, have not yet been reported in cucurbits in the United States. Similarly, there are many viruses in the United States that produce mosaic symptoms on cucurbits. Many of these are widespread and not only occur in the same production regions, but can also occur in mixed infections with one another. Other viruses of greater concern, such as cucumber green mottle mosaic virus, may also produce similar symptoms and be easily confused with the more widely prevalent insect-transmitted mosaic viruses.
Recognizing the emergence and impact of the previously described viruses on the cucurbit industry, an IDF Cafe was held at Plant Health 2021, the national meeting of the American Phytopathological Society, to bring together meeting attendees to discuss the growing threat of emerging viruses to the cucurbit industry in the United States. After much interest and discussion at Plant Health 2021, a follow-up meeting was held to broaden the discussion and gather input from the larger cucurbit community. Sustained interest and concern about emerging viruses and cucurbits led to the development of a grant proposal to seek funding to formally establish a working group to address emerging viruses affecting the cucurbit industry. The proposal was successfully funded by the Southern Region IPM Center, and the Emerging Viruses and Cucurbits Working Group was formally established in March 2022. The Emerging Viruses and Cucurbits Working Group is currently comprised of 24 members representing various cucurbit crops, disciplines, and sectors of the cucurbit industry. The EVCWG is led by 2 co-chairs and a steering committee and includes members from across the United States cucurbit production regions. It also includes members of the international cucurbit community, because as we know, cucurbit viruses are a global concern, and what happens in the global cucurbit industry impacts cucurbit production in the United States. The established mission of the Emerging Viruses and Cucurbits Working Group is to improve communication and knowledge about viruses across the cucurbit industry and develop strategies to successfully identify and mitigate virus threats to cucurbit production in the United States. This mission will be accomplished through quarterly EVCWG meetings, the development of various educational resources, including fact sheets, webcasts, and a website from which content can be freely accessed, and the delivery of educational presentations to stakeholders on emerging viruses and their management. EVCWG activities and reports will also be posted to the website. The first webcast, developed with support from the Emerging Viruses and Cucurbits Working Group and by EVCWG Steering Committee member Kai-Shu Ling, is available on Grow Plant Health Exchange's Focus on Cucurbits series and is linked on the EVCWG website. The Focus on Cucurbits series also has additional webcasts on viruses created by members of the EVCWG Working Group. Fact sheets focusing on important emerging viruses, virus groups, and/or virus vectors in cucurbits are also being developed. These fact sheets will be available in HTML format, and many will also be available as printable PDFs. Fact sheets will include descriptions of symptoms in virus-infected plants, as well as information about the epidemiology and spread of the viruses, their geographic incidence, methods of detection and diagnosis, and management. Several fact sheets are currently available on the EVCWG website, and others are in various stages of preparation. Educational postcards on emerging viruses and virus vectors in cucurbits were also developed and are being distributed at various stakeholder events and local extension offices. However, these postcards were also developed and made available on the EVCWG website as printable one-page handouts. Feel free to print either the English or Spanish language versions of the postcards for distribution to your stakeholders or workers. As you heard Bill Wintermantel mention earlier in this presentation, symptoms of many viruses can be difficult, if not impossible, to differentiate from other virus infections, diseases, or disorders. However, you've heard a picture is worth 1,000 words, and while it may not be possible to identify a virus infection from a picture, pictures can help you recognize symptoms of potential infections. Visit the EVCWG website image gallery to view images of symptoms of virus infections in various cucurbit crops, as well as vectors known to transmit viruses in cucurbits. So why should you visit the EVCWG website? Well, you're already here at ecucurbitviruses.org, so why should you stick around? Explore the EVCWG website to learn about the Emerging Viruses and Cucurbits Working Group, its members, and its activities, and to access educational resources and images to help you identify potential virus infections, what to do if you suspect you may have a virus in your cucurbits, and to learn how to manage identified viruses in your cucurbits. The Emerging Viruses and Cucurbits Working Group is currently targeting several areas of critical importance to the cucurbit industry. Regional and local threats are regularly discussed at EVCWG meetings to raise awareness of virus issues among the different cucurbit production regions. 3 additional discussion topics have been the focus of the EVCWG during its first year. These are potential risk factors for viruses affecting cucurbits, potential approaches to mitigate threats, and how industry and academia can coordinate efforts to reduce threats. Each topic or question was discussed in initial EVCWG meetings, and then specific responses were assembled into relevant or meaningful priorities. Priorities were then ranked by EVCWG members.
Priorities identified for potential risk factors affecting cucurbits included the appearance of new and novel viruses, the need for improved management options, breeding challenges, changing climate conditions that impact vectors, hosts, etc., epidemiological factors affecting virus establishment, diagnostics, the lack of sustained funding for initiatives addressing risk factors, and incomplete knowledge of virus diversity and geographic incidence, and the need for improved communication and cooperation regarding virus identification, spread, impact, and management. The ranked priorities among potential risk factors for viruses affecting cucurbits are shown here. Of these, the appearance of new and novel viruses was ranked the #1 priority by 7 of 16 respondents. Approaches considered by the working group to mitigate virus threats include educating those within the cucurbit industry on what to do to identify and report a suspected virus, promoting self-regulation to prevent virus introduction and spread into the United States, developing assays for identification and monitoring of virus incidents in seeds, transplants, and at production sites, development of management strategies for management of seed and insect transmitted viruses, conducting virus incidence surveys to monitor introduction and spread of viruses in the U.S., and improving communication and cooperation within the cucurbit industry. Of these, the top priorities identified by the working group to mitigate virus threats were to conduct virus incidence surveys to monitor introduction and spread of viruses in the U.S., to educate those within the cucurbit industry on what to do to identify and report suspected viruses, and to develop assays for identification and monitoring of virus incidents in seeds, transplants, and at production sites. Priorities discussed for how industry and academia can coordinate efforts to reduce threats include development of uniform regional, national, and/or international strategic plans to limit the introduction and spread of viruses affecting cucurbit crops, to develop and make accessible standard protocols for virus detection that don't conflict with proprietary information, development of biotechnology tools or resources for use in breeding to assist with the development of virus-resistant varieties, the development of a working group, such as this one, to bring collaborators together to address current and future virus-related challenges, and developing a forum to facilitate communication throughout the cucurbit industry. The working group identified the top priorities for how industry and academia could coordinate efforts to reduce virus threats as development and making accessible standard protocols for virus detection, and to develop uniform regional, national, and/or international strategic plans to limit introduction and spread of viruses affecting cucurbit crops.
So how can you help? Get involved. When possible, contribute to EVCWG discussions to let us know how you are being impacted by cucurbit viruses or what you're discovering about cucurbit viruses in your research. Use the Emerging Viruses in Cucurbits Working Group resources to educate yourself or your stakeholders on emerging viruses in cucurbits, and do your part in helping to prevent the spread of viruses in cucurbits. Spread the word about EVCWG resources so that others can learn about emerging viruses in cucurbits and do their part. And share your feedback through the survey on the website to let us know that our efforts are important to the continued success of the cucurbit industry and what additional steps the Emerging Viruses in Cucurbits Working Group can do to help. To learn more, contact any EVCWG member directly or send a message through the website. Thank you for your interest.